Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Late Night Learning. I am your host, Dr. Anthony Palomba. Now today we're going to be talking about stories. We're going to be talking about stories in the second portion of data visualization. So in the last lesson, we were going through different story arcs and thinking about different elements and ways to be persuasive and thinking about plugging into our audience, thinking about ways in which we can implicate our audience and bring them in. In this, we're going to be talking about visual elements. Stories matter, but the way that we present them also matters. The color scheme, the layout, the font, the type, all of this is relevant when we're trying to show contrast. And this is something that I want in the back of your mind as you're going through this lecture, this idea of contrast. We notice things when there's contrast. For instance, in looking at my sweater right here, this is a bit unprecedented, I suppose. The sweater brings out the two stripes that are black here, doesn't it? But we also know that if this was an all-black sweater, you wouldn't be able to see these two bands right here. In fact, this actually may be a navy blue. But the fact is that the light gray brings out the contrast here. And you could also argue the navy blue here brings out the contrast between itself and the sweater. And so by using different colors, it's really key to begin to consider what we want our audience to pay attention to and what we don't want them to pay attention to. And additionally, and I don't know why I didn't bring this up, I'm also wearing a very pink shirt against gray. There's a great contrast here. And so you're likely to look and notice the pink first, probably before anything else here. You want to start thinking about your slides in that manner. How do we get audiences to get in, see what we need to know, and then get out? Not only does this save audiences time and effort, whether it's a Tableau dashboard, a Power BI dashboard, or a PowerPoint presentation, but as the presenter, it saves us time. We have less to worry about if we're looking at a slide here or wherever the confidence monitor is positioned if we know exactly where the points are. So the color contrasts not only help audiences, but they help presenters move along efficiently. Without further ado, let's get started. Stories matter. If that was one thing that you picked up in the last lesson, I hope it was that. Stories matter. Creating contrast, creating arcs, perhaps presenting negative information in the beginning or toward the end, but finishing on a high note, finishing with energy, finishing with verve, hopefulness is important because that's where we're leaving our audience members, hoping to spur them to change. In order to do this, we want to tell a colorful story full of images that are thought-provoking and full of data that is equally thought-provoking to move them toward the very same recommendations that you came to. Let's keep going. Let's invest in employee training to improve the in-store customer experience. Now, I read this a certain way, but what's going on here? Aside from the fact I'm using UVA Cavalier colors, go Cavaliers, what's going on here? Well, for one, I've highlighted different portions of the sentence to really underscore different language. Invest, improve customer experience, right? The audience can browse right through this. And there's a story being told there. We can invest to improve the customer experience. If we think about an executive, if we think about a CEO, if we think about somebody going through your presentation, they may not read everything that you've written or everything on your deck. This is a great way to reinforce emotion, passion, and feeling in your slides. Let's keep going. Back to school shopping, 30%. Huge driver overall annual success. I just read all of the orange, and it told a story. It told a story within a story. Think about linking numbers and data and language with the same color. It tells a story within a story, and it becomes way more skimmable as a result. You can get into this quickly, you can get out of it even quicker. It's the same thing for your audience. Let's keep going. What we'll cover today. Where did your eyes go first? Did they go to the orange and then the blue? I bet they did. Well, I designed it that way. I designed it this way because I wanted your eyes to go to certain places, because that's where I'm going to start speaking. Everything else is grayed out. Why? Because I get to decide if I read the rest of that or not. It's not relevant. It's not relevant. If I choose to read it, fine. If not, one, we're going to discuss what we've learned. Two, suggest specific recommendations. And with the gray out, it's unlikely people will continue to read. So I could do a few things here. I can get rid of the gray if I really don't need it, or I can keep it there and elaborate on it. This gives us opportunities to customize how we want to approach each slide. It's up to you. But you want to start controlling where audience members look first. Let's keep going. So here, action needed, invest in employee training, back to school shopping, consumer sentiment, pardon me. So this is a consumer sentiment survey, fine. So what we have here is we have the good news in blue, orange, we can perform, and a recommendation. Great. So we can see here the good news is linked by blue. We've already educated our audience such that we can bring up the good news is that several key metrics outperformed competitors. Everybody here knows to look at the blue. Everybody here knows to look at the blue. It becomes very apparent very quickly. Orange is underperformed. Places where we can improve. And you can see that transition is nearly seamless. Underperform, places we can improve. Outperform, there's a lot of good news here. You can see me pivoting now, and I can begin to discuss granular KPIs here, or items that need to be addressed. Let's keep going. I want us to think about this example. This is example one with a cat food brand. So cat food brands, lifestyle line brands are in decline. They've declined. We can see here that there are several demarcated lifestyle cat food brands that have declined. Are there other stories here that can be told? Look at the chart carefully. Are there other stories that can be told here? Take a few moments, look at this. You can even pause the video. And then I'm going to go through a bunch that are actually possible. Okay, so we have you back. Let's see if there are other stories that can be told from the same chart. Here we have cat food brands, most in feline increased. In feline line increased, pardon me. So we can see Feline Gold, Feline Platinum, Feline Instinct, Feline Pro, Feline Royal, Feline Focus, etc., etc. They've all pretty much increased with a few exceptions. Let's keep going. 8 brands decreased in sales. This is yet again another story that can be pulled from here. Same chart. Let's keep going. 2 brands decreased the most. Fran's Recipe and Wholesome Goodness. Can't believe that these are cat food name brands. Let's keep going. 11 brands flat to increasing. Another story that can be told here. Let's keep going. Mixed results in sales year over year. So we can see here We have negative brands in the lifestyle line, decreased year over year. And then we have purple. Most brands in the feline line increased in sales year over year. We can see that here. Let's keep going. Last, certainly not least, mixed results in sales year over year. You can rewrite this slide, and you can see to the right-hand side, I've rewritten some of the takeaways. 8 key cat food brands declined in sales year over year, with 5 brands decreasing about 7% or more. This was expected in some cases due to focused shift toward higher margin brands. Fran's Recipe and Wholesome Goodness each declined by more than 13%, which was more than expected. However, on the positive side, 5 brands increased 8% plus year over year, with marked 16% increases for NutriBalance and Farm Fresh Basics. And so you can see here that there are a lot of different stories that can be told. You can tell negative stories, you can tell positive stories. You can even tell a mixed bag story if you wanted. So which story will you tell? Begin to have these conversations with every slide that your group creates starting now. Begin to think about, is this a positive slide? Is it a negative slide? Where will the audience's headspace be after 3 negative slides? How can we pick them back up? How do we make sure that we finish on a positive note? Always, as best as you can, finish on a positive note. You might even consider staggering negative news, positive news, negative news, positive news, and then have positive, positive conclusion, if you can do that. But you want to think about the cadence, the rhythm, the feel of the presentation. Let's keep going. Contrasting colors. So that's this idea that you saw a little bit of this in these examples. We're working to contrast colors. We're working to find contrast. We're working to find different ways in which we can get people in and get people out of slides very, very quickly. Let's keep going. Stacked horizontal bar chart. This is a McDonald's consumer service survey from Long Island City, New York, October 2020. So this is made up. I would recommend this restaurant to another friend. The service was good. This restaurant is affordable. This restaurant has a great reputation. I enjoyed the food here. Okay, well, what might be wrong with this chart? What might some issues be here? Are there any issues here? Well, for one, there are a lot of colors going on here. It's nice to have everything clearly demarcated. But let's say that executives are only interested in figuring out if people really love McDonald's or really hate it. Well, then we don't need all of this information. It's kind of a waste. Additionally, where did people's eyes land? Everybody go to the middle, yellow? Probably, maybe to the orange first, right? But then there were probably some of us who started out with the blue. Well, that means everybody's all over the place. That's not going to work. Let's see if we can do better. Let's go to the next slide. Ooh. So here we can see that for the results of this survey question, or these statements rather, we can see here that the blue has been highlighted, the orange has been highlighted. Strongly disagree, strongly agree, great, love it or hate it, right? And we could see here to the right-hand side, there are some really nice call-outs. Affordability was highest score for McDonald's. Satisfaction was highest for food enjoyment. And so these are great ways in which we can kick out some call-outs, kick out some recommendations to get in and to get out. And again, our eyes likely went from left to right, strongly disagree to strongly agree, right? Maybe some of us went to the orange first and then to the blue, but very quickly, oh, okay, got it. Blue is strongly disagree, orange is strongly agree. Great, back to Elizabeth. Great, back to Casey. Great, back to Lauren. Great, back to Tom. Few seconds, great. Now I want to hear what Tom has to say. That's it. And so by creating this kind of contrast, we're not paying attention to the gray. The orange and blue are under examination. They're under inquiry. And to further explain these scores, we can turn right back to the business presenter, and he or she can elaborate on these points. Let's keep going. Here is another one. Oh gosh. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure why all of the icons went to the right and left. I promise you this is aligned way better, pardon me, on the actual PowerPoint deck. Nonetheless, Netflix and HBO continue to be top brands on unaided mentions. Did you guys have to spend a few seconds searching for Netflix and HBO? Yeah, you probably did. It's a bit frustrating. Let's see if we can make this slide just a bit better, such that we can quickly see what's going on here. Very much with a few simple adjustments, we can quickly highlight Netflix and HBO continue to be top brands on unaided mentions. You can gray out the top line. You may also pick a different color for HBO. Maybe HBO becomes gray and the rest of the top line becomes black. You can play with that. But what you can quickly see here is that Netflix red, bam, HBO, bam, black, bam. We're in and we're out. Very quickly, I can find Netflix and HBO instantaneously. Great. Saw it. I want to hear what Sarah has to say. I want to hear what Yvonne has to say. I saw the slide. Great. So what are you going to tell me now? You're the star of the show, not the slide. Let's keep going. If we want to make this even bigger, we can get rid of, if we need the bars, we can get rid of the numbers so people aren't looking at numbers if we don't want them to. And we can pop out the 35% and 32% here. Now, we might still keep the gray data here. We might. Because maybe some people are just not familiar with unaided mentions. They don't know, is 35% high, is 32% high? Some people may not know. So it may be important to still give people a baseline for ABC, Hulu, CBS, and Disney. Maybe they still need a baseline. Fine. So here we can see that, at the very least, 35% red, 32% black. They align quite well with these SVOD brands. Perfect. No problem there. Let's keep going. This is the last slide, I promise you, that we'll be fixing during this lecture. But again, in thinking about applying some of the lessons that we have here, this is a bit of a mess, right? We have Subway, Freshii, Chipotle, Burger King, McDonald's. This is a Burger King's consumer service survey. So thinking about service at the restaurant, also in Long Island City, October 2020. There's a lot going on here. We have different colors here. If Burger King is in the SAS, if that's the focus, I shouldn't have to work hard to find Burger King on this chart. I shouldn't have to work hard at all. You make your audience work, that's a sure sign of having a presentation go south. Your audience shouldn't have to figure out a damn thing. Let's see if we can make this slide just a bit better. So for one, we have Burger King food enjoyment gaining momentum. Okay, so that's a story within a story. I can kind of breeze right through the SAS and I can keep moving along. But the chart is still multicolored. Maybe there's a way that we can fix this. Perfect. So here we have 15%, 20%, 10%, 15%, 40%. Great. I don't have to worry about the competitors. I might even lump all the competitors into one gray amorphous blob. Maybe that's the way to go about it. Again, it depends what the story is you want to tell. Do I want to compare Burger King against its competitors and show individually how they're doing, but I don't really need to call them out because this slide is really about Burger King. But some people may ask, well, what's 15%? What's 20%? What are the competitors doing? Is this a high number or is it a low number? We can begin to start thinking about how we want to present something by shading and not shading to create contrast. Let's keep going. You can see a few other things here. So I've made the SAS a bit bigger. I've color-coded it blue. Color code descriptors with data, right? Burger King is blue, that's what it's demarcated as, great. I've also made the recommendation blue as well, or at least part of it. Highlight menu items, great. Smaller size, the base, who answered this question, the number of participants, and the question that was asked, that was posited to people. Why? They don't really need to be worried about this. I mean, it's there just for transparency's sake, but it's not at the center of what makes this slide compelling or interesting. Let's keep going. Visual storytelling. So what we visualize, what we think about, what we consider, what we digest as people is really critical. We're most enthralled with visual cues, right? Photos grab our attention, videos grab our attention, movies, television, social media. Think about what grabs your attention. And there's no reason why any of it can't make its way into a business presentation. So in this segment, I want to go through visuals. And I just want you to look. I just want you to look at the visuals. Let's start with the first one. What do you want to say in your visual? Who are you saying it to? What do you want them to do after you say it? And where do you want audience eyes to land? This is important. This is important. This guy's having a good time with his dog. It's fun. It's friendly. There's a lot of good energy, a lot of positive energy. I love it. But images do more than manipulate our emotions. They also, not unlike some of the data visualizations I just showed you, tell us where to look. Let's keep going. I imagine that your eyes went to the gentleman who is in movement. So our eyes tend to be cued toward movement, even when it's fixed. We're still interested in movement. Let's keep going. I imagine that your eyes landed on the camera. What is in focus as the gentleman is out of focus? Let's keep going. Lightning. I imagine that your eyes went to the lightning, maybe even the bright orb of lightning right at the top of the screen. May have been where most of your eyes landed. And again, I'm not a magician. I'm not making any tricks here up or subjecting you to any kind of magic tricks. But as humans, we have propensities to look at contrast and movement and things that are in focus. Let's keep going. Well, in a slide in which everything seems to be a light beige, or maybe a tanned color, the chess piece that's a bit of maybe a chestnut brown is probably where all of our eyes landed, because it's different than everything else. This is a biological predisposition that we have because our ancestors lived once in forests and jungles, and like every other animal on the planet, had to worry about survival. And part of that is finding danger. And part of that is finding things that stick out. We still have those biological predispositions. We are still wired that way. Your audience is still wired that way. Help them find contrast. Let's keep going. Well, your eyes probably did a bit of a circle or a bit of a look around. To be frank, these boys are likely from the same country, probably share the same ethnicity, and what's even worse is they're all dressed the same. So we don't really know where to look, so our eyes probably head to the middle because everything looks the same. here, more or less. And so thinking about when to create contrast, where do we need contrast, and what it does to our audience is important to have in the back of our minds as we're designing slides. Let's keep going. Understanding eye movement. Now I have a cat here. The cat is supposed to indicate that the cats that we own are always looking around, right? Their attention spans are always darting around. They're always trying to figure out what's going on. What is moving on the slide? What is the slide focused on? You know, the eye will search out for what is different. Perhaps the entire image is different than the others. Is it brighter? Is it bigger? Is it in front? Is it bolder? What does it look like? Select 1 to 2 colors in color scheme and consistently use them to alert audience members about significant information. Maybe the firm that you represent is purple. Great. In every bar chart, whatever kind of chart, line chart, call out, you can color code it as purple if it refers to your company. This is a great way to really begin to brand your slides and create cohesion. Additionally, if you ever want the focus back on you, insofar as audience eye movement is concerned, Shift B turns PowerPoint to black, Shift W turns PowerPoint to white. You can always get it back. But there might be moments during your presentation that, insofar as contrast is concerned, you may want a blank screen so you become the most interesting thing that the audience is looking at. And so, in summation of all of this, it's really important to start thinking about where audiences' eyes land on a page. We can quickly see how effective pictures are. They can bring about movement and energy that we might need during a presentation to really reinforce what we're feeling, to maybe espouse a particular element of a brand, or to tell of good news or bad news that executives and the C-suite team need to know. Additionally, contrast. I really want you to walk away from this lecture thinking about contrast. When we create good contrast, we begin to look for what we need to know quickly. And inevitably, this saves not only the audience time, but the business presenter as well. Well, that's all the time we have on Late Night Learning. As always, keep laughing and keep learning.